Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connecticut Common Sense Podcast, the ever growing and ever awesome Connecticut Common Sense. I am Jason Douglas, and here I am with the great Selena Rifkin,
Hi, everybody.
author and political commentator. We have a lot to talk about tonight, so let's get right to it. I say,
Yes,
time's a wasting.
time to waste.
Sure is. And one of the things is, I don't know if many of you are aware, probably who are listening to this, that I spoke at the Connecticut Republican Assembly, Fairfield County holiday party last night at the Riverside restaurant.
Riverview.
Thank you.
Riverview.
Riverview restaurant. You're right. My bad.
Yeah.
Down in Stratford, which, by the way, let me just give a little kudos out to that place. Great service,
Yes.
great food. You
Yes.
know, hopefully more people will go and eat there on a Tuesday night in the
Mhm.
future. It's a great place. But anyway, besides that, I just want to say that the main thing that comes out of it is that I want to talk about the mentality of passive support. So one of the things that I think people who follow us and what we're doing wanted me to say there, which hopefully I got across, was that 1 month. I guess the theme of it is 1 month or 1 hour a month at a meeting isn't enough to flip the state red, white, and blue.
Mm.
Okay, and that there needs to be more activism and more action and less talk. There's a lot of talk and a lot of what I call passive support. Rah, rah, go team, go. But we need more people to actually, even without our direct, if you want to contact us, you can and tell us, how do I help? What can I do? Or we're telling you what you can do and how you can help. Because um, it's very important that there's more activism going on. And people should be going to the Republican and Democratic, by the way, town committee meetings and joining those committees, right? Selena, that is the absolute where the rubber meets the wheel here
It
in
is.
terms of getting a strong Republican Party going. It's not even about Republican; it's about common sense and American values. Like I've said before, and I'll say again, conservatism, Republican, MAGA, basically, Make America Great Again, is in dovetail of what the founding fathers and the people that founded this country wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, today I hung out with both my daughters. I don't mention my kids much on here, but I hung out with both my daughters, but one of my daughters later on. And bottom line is, even she and even people have a mentality that is, how do I put this? In a way that common sense, devoid of common sense.
Mm.
Historically, a lot of people in high school didn't pay attention to history. It's really historically void of common sense. So
Mm.
a lot of people look at America as bad because we were founded, we had slaves.
Right.
African Americans did build a lot of this country, especially in the South
Hmm.
and the North. Um, and so it comes down to, I think, what a lot of people fall for in history is they hold people from 17 and 1600s accountable to the standards of 2025.
Yeah, that's
And you
not appropriate.
can't do that.
Yeah.
That's the trap my daughter falls into. That's why I bring her up.
Okay.
It's out of good-heartedness, you see, and that's why a lot of
Yeah.
people on the left, I think, are good-hearted. Not the far left. I'm talking about straight,
Right.
reasonably Democrat people. And it gets into transgender issue too, which we can talk about later.
Hmm.
Um, but they have to understand. They don't understand that the world up until the founding of this country literally was a place where slavery was common and accepted.
Yeah. It was the norm.
It
It was
was the norm. It was another class of people. Like here we have the lower class, middle class, and upper class. Well, they had the lower class, middle class. There was no middle class. It was
there
upper
was
class. There was upper class, poverty class, and slave class.
right.
That was it.
Yeah.
The middle class was minuscule.
Right.
And those people didn't have homes. They were migrants.
Hmm.
They went around and sold they were, I call them Middle Ages eBay. That's what they are. They would go around, find tin cups on the side of the road, whatever they could find, and buy and sell, and they would sell it, try to make a profit off it. Just like
The merchant
they were
class.
the merchant class, and they were less than one. They were like 1% of the population.
Yeah.
There was nobody's. So there was very little middle class. So bottom line is, I guess people need to understand the United States was formed. Yes, we still had slaves, but most of the northern states had freed the slaves by the time we got to the end of the 18th century.
And
Within the first
worth
15
noting,
years of our existence, I'm sorry?
and it's worth noting that, you know, it was Great Britain that was the first country in the world to decide that not only were they going to not have slavery, but that they were going to go after other countries
Correct.
that were running slave ships.
That's right. The abolitionist movement, the true. So up until the early 1800s, there was really nobody talking about freeing slaves or
Yeah.
ending slavery. There were
Nobody,
very few
nobody
people.
was
There were very few people that were ahead of the time that talked about it being wrong, but they were just lone voices in the woods. Nobody paid attention to these people.
mm,
Nobody. It was only there's two places where the true abolitionist movement began. One was in England, like you mentioned. The other one right here in New England, right here
Yes.
in Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. And so what the true history is we were the first country in the world to have any kind of a real and England, United States and England.
Yeah, but we had to fight for
The
it.
white people were trying to destroy apparently. They were the first right. The first two movements and the movement grew
They
and grew
were over it.
until tens of thousands, 100,000 or more white men from New England died to
Mhm.
free slaves in a
My
civil war.
ancestors, I have ancestors that fought in that war.
Right. And in a battle to establish an entirely new concept in the planet Earth that slavery was wrong.
Mhm.
We're going to do away with that class and replace it with what was the growing middle class. So at the founding of this country, and this is very important, there were a lot of people actually in the North that would have liked to have founded the country on the basis of no slavery right to begin with, because
Yes.
the movement was already starting up a little bit at that point. There
Yes.
were some statesmen that wanted that, but they
Mhm.
knew they could never do it. They needed to unite with the South, who was so dependent on slaves economically
Right.
that they had no choice. If they wanted to form this new free country, this new concept, they
Mhm.
had to just bite the bullet and deal with that later.
Are you going to talk about the Three-Fifths Compromise?
Three-fifths compromise. That's interesting you bring that up. You caught me off guard. But yes, the three-fifths compromise was when you come to it's like a gerrymandering thing. We fight over house districts and whatnot, and that's what they were doing back then when they were fighting over house districts. The South, of course, wanted to count slaves as
Whole
actually
concept. So
right.
that
Tell me if I got this wrong.
even though slaves couldn't vote, they were like counted
They
as
still wanted to count them. So the South, the Democrats again at that time, they were called Democratic Republicans back then. They had the hyphenated name back then, I believe.
okay.
And they wanted their cake and eat it too. They wanted to count slaves as people when it came to counting for representatives in Congress, right? But
Right.
they didn't want to let them vote or have any rights. They wanted them counted zero when it came to that. So this three-fifths compromise was drawn up, which allowed the South to count an African American slave as 0.6 or three-fifths of a person, which is it's almost more humiliating than
It's weird, but it was like
it's terrible.
that
But
was, sometimes you make a bad compromise and then it ends up, I mean, obviously this changed. It
the,
changed over time.
the point is that a lot of good thinking left wing people should understand the history and understand that the United States should be celebrated as a country that and England as two countries that spearheaded the end of slavery as a viable class. Today in the world, very few countries accept slavery. It still happens in some countries, but for the most part, around the world, slavery is not an accepted class of people. Any slavery that
Not that they don't exist, it's just that
it
it
exists, but it's illegal. At least it's illegal now. It's not a system anymore. And yes. But anyway, the point of all that is that um I figured out something else, like about people ask me. I didn't talk a lot about running during my speech. I didn't talk a lot about how I was going to run for Larson or whatnot. It's not going to happen. I figured out something else. I am not a politician. I am not a. Now that doesn't mean I won't run for office.
well,
Even if I run for
run
office,
for
I'm
town
not
office.
a. Even if I run for office, I'm not going to run in 2026. I've made up my mind on that because the support just isn't there, and it's too late for me to do a kind of great campaign like the Barrows is doing. It's just too late. I can help. Believe me, I'm going to help other campaigns. I have a lot of things I'm going to do that's going to help, but that's not that in the cards right now. However, even if I do run for office at some point, I will still not be running as a politician. I refuse to be a politician. It's not going to happen.
Right. We
I'm
need
run as a
politics.
citizen,
What we
as a concerned citizen.
need.
This politician business is a joke. I got to be too nice, and I'm not that nice. I'm nice, but I'm not. I'm nice. I'm a realist. That's another thing I said last night. I'm going to repeat that. maybe I'm weird, but I'm not. Most people I think are either optimists or they're pessimists. Most people I think. My, I know my brothers are both pessimists. I know that a lot of people with a lot of pessimism around here. I
Yeah.
see a lot of
Even
optimism on the right, and I see a
last
lot of
night,
right.
even at the table last night, there was a lady who was just very determined to say how bad it was in
How
Connecticut.
hopeless it
Right?
was,
How
right?
hopeless, that's the
Yeah,
word.
and you couldn't help yourself. You're like, we believe it is. We believe there's still hope here, and there is. Common sense prevails. We got to go. That's why that's the name of this show. That's the reason.
Right.
And the bottom line is, I'm neither one. I am not an optimist, and I'm not a pessimist.
Mm.
I'm a realist, and I call it as I see it. And if it's good, I'm going to say it is, and if it's bad, I'm going to say it is, and that's it. That's all you're going to get. I think politician. If you could put the label of politician on yourself, you're forcing yourself to, like John DeBarros. He says so many positive things to say, but he doesn't want to say too much negative. He'll say it all. John DeBarros is a realist. That's why I admire him. That's why I'm going to do everything I can to help
Being
him win.
himself. He's not,
He's
he's
just
not
being himself.
just being himself.
And I hear nothing but positive. We have to hear a positive message, and it's true. Positive is the better message because it's better. Is it?
And
Hello,
Marcy too. I
Make
mean,
America Great is good. Positive is better than negative,
being a real guy.
but
So,
negative is still negative, and there's something to be afraid of. If you're somebody, and this is where I want to get into this next little area, the psychology of volunteering, of
hmm,
taking extra time out of your life,
yeah.
even sacrificing time, even with your kids or your grandkids, even to
Hmm,
go out and be a part of this movement and go to some RTC meeting where you may not even be well received potentially.
right.
I spent time with my youngest grandson today. He's only about 2 months old and he's doing his first real smile. And I would rather spend my time doing that than in some RTC meeting
Hmm,
any day of the week. So I really want to talk about the psychology of volunteering
hmm. Okay.
and taking the extra step to sacrifice your own part of your own life, a little piece of your own life,
Hmm.
that whatever you can in order to actually do these things. What is the psychology, Selena, of 20,000 or 30,000 or more people flooding the streets of Hartford over a basketball team versus going to an RTC meeting? I'm a basketball fan,
Okay.
and
I'm
I was
not.
at I
So
was
you're asking the wrong person. It's
I
like,
was at
oh,
those
you guys
parades.
are sportsing,
But you
doing the
fancy
sports thing.
yourself, you're a humanist, right? You love human beings and you love their. So what? You're not a psych. I know you're not a trained psychiatrist or psychologist, but I'm just asking your
I have a
opinion.
bachelor's in psychology.
What do you? Yeah, see, you are a psychologist. What do you? What is the mentality behind that?
Um, we have,
I'm asking you a
I
tough
mean,
one. You
it
got me
used
on the
to
three fifths thing. I'm coming at you now with this one.
um, so in historically in Connecticut, we had a lot of what we had here was we had a lot of religion. And this church was the center of the community, and there was there were standards of behavior, and the expectation was is that you were going to contribute to the community because if you didn't, everybody was going to go down the tubes.
Hmm.
In some ways, we have so much wealth now, and Connecticut is still, even though there's a lot of people struggling, relatively speaking, the amount of money here is a lot.
Yeah,
It's
we're not getting hit like some of the other states are economically,
yeah.
in terms of middle class, at least.
Well, yeah, I mean it's like although a lot of people are leaving, we have a lot of they say it's like, oh, a lot of people are coming in from New York, blah blah blah. But that's not the people who grew up here. It's a lot of people who are growing up here are leaving because they can't afford it.
Mm.
But there's also, and some of it is, I think, not realizing how important the participation is and how much it matters.
What's at stake?
Well, yes, what
What
is
matter? How much it matters, right?
and then there's the whole like, oh, we're going to leave and it'll be better in some other state. And I'm like, I have been going through, I didn't get on X today because I have to take a break from social media every now and then. And I recommend that
Well,
because
I do that. I take breaks from social media all the time. At least once every 10 days or so. You won't see me
yeah,
there.
it's important.
Yeah.
But when we were growing up, I don't know what your civics class was like. Mine was so boring that I wanted to stab myself in the chest before I was done. Why? Why in God's name would I think that I wanted to get involved in any kind of local government after that kind of instruction? There
Mhm.
was nothing in there that made me think that it was a good idea to come and participate. The teachers
Right.
said nothing whatsoever about why it was important for us as individuals to do that. It went right out. It was just like, oh, in one ear, out the other, as much as I could pass the test. Fantastic. I I had to learn this year what an RTC was. I didn't know. I didn't know. I had
Interesting.
no idea. No, I had no idea. Um, but
We
the other
both
thing,
learned a lot this year then.
yes, we did. But the other thing of this is like there's a big emphasis on getting out and voting. And
More than that.
well, what's frustrating to me is I was in a meeting the other night and there was a man who he said, I'm 82 and I voted for the first time in this last election. He had, there is a degree to which, especially Christians have a tendency, especially, very, heartfelt, strong Christians,
Yeah.
and what he was talking about is he was saying, "Oh, I'm letting God deal with." I was like, I was just trusting God to deal with this.
Oh, we need
It's
more
like
help. You
this is a hazard of a religious view that attends to the hereafter as opposed to the here now.
hmm
So I'd say that's a piece of it. But I look at that man who voted for the first time in the last election.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
This is where Pastor Dell comes in.
Yes, yes, and he
So
was
the
interviewed.
answer is God gives free will.
Yes, we
He
have
doesn't
free will.
interfere in our elections.
And my approach to this is now that I understand that I am responsible for what's happening here and now. My failure to engage is my responsibility. I'm not blaming Ben Proto. I'm not nuts about him, but I'm not blaming Ben Proto. I'm blaming me. I'm taking responsibility for the fact that I did not engage before this. And
Right.
and it's like, why? What? I didn't know. I didn't know it was important.
Well,
I didn't know that it mattered.
That's why Einstein once said, he was a smart guy, that it's not the evil despots that are to blame, it's the massive people that outnumber them that do nothing about it
Right.
that are to blame. Because the despot's already sicko. Ben Proto's already a sycophant, man.
Yeah.
He's
And
what he is. He's
my
born like
frus-
that,
my
probably.
frustration with people who go, "Oh my God, the Connecticut GOP is awful." Yeah, it is awful, but
Awful leadership. The
awful
leadership is
because we
awful.
haven't been involved.
And you know what is something else?
Yeah.
People never outgrow this as adults. When you're in middle school, think about middle school, right? There's always that one kid that we had a kid in middle school that was kind of a bully, right? But
Mm.
he had some charisma too, you
Right,
know. But
right, right.
he'd sit there and punch you in the shoulder all the time, and he'd punch you and if he got mad, he'd even punch you in the eye. One of those people, bully, bully, bully guy. And what happened? What do people do? They don't all, even though there's way more.
Yeah.
What do
Well,
they do? They all make friends with the bully. They all want to be by his side. It's the same damn thing with a guy like Proto.
there is
You don't outgrow
definitely
that, apparently. Some of
we
us don't.
have there's a percentage of the population. So I talk a little bit about the psychology. So one of the one of my favorite psychological he studies moral psychology, and it's the basically how our morals evolved, like what they evolved from. For example, when we talk about caring for people, which we can come back to because you're going to talk about the trans thing.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that.
So caring, the fact that we care and we want to, be warm, that comes from child rearing.
Hmm.
And the fact that if we didn't care about our offspring, we wouldn't be able to raise them. They would all die if we didn't care about them and give them that. Women especially have to give up to about 18 months. You have to pay attention to the baby. If you don't pay attention to the baby's going to die. And there ain't no more
Right.
chance if you let that happen.
Yep.
So this is an evolved moral framework. One of the last moral frameworks that he looked at was basically liberty oppression because it isn't an obvious thing. there is a degree to which humans will put up with, will put up with um, oppression, um,
Security.
on what's going on, around them and how it's being framed, because how it's framed actually matters too. I mean, these things all interact with each other. But
Yeah.
the percentage of people who are liberty minded is relatively small. And that's like,
Proactively,
yeah,
proactively liberty
yeah.
minded. That's true.
So, I
It's
mean, if
about
you think about
15%. I think about 15% of the
that,
people.
and it's a different mindset, and it's also it's less tractable. So it's like people with this mind, it's like we're just not as what's the word? Um, in the big five personality test, we're just less agreeable. It's agreeableness. We're less
Right.
agreeable.
I think that though, when it comes down to, they'll take a certain level of oppression. But I think, but as the government oppresses deeper,
Oh
the
yeah,
percentage of
it's
people
yeah,
that want to,
there's always the peasant
yeah,
uprising.
nobody wants to be dragged into a, concentration camp or whatever, So, but that's my point though, because here's the thing: government, especially large governments like the United States government, and the large, very large, I believe we're up to what, $40 billion budget, state of Connecticut
Hmm.
government. Okay, maybe more than that, probably more than that by now. Um, they're the most powerful mafia units in the country, in the world. Okay, the governments are um, responsible for we can't depend on them for
Mhm.
ourselves. We have to work for ourselves. That's what it comes down to. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we work for them and then we get to work for ourselves. Oh.
so that gets to where things like this. This is something one of our colleagues handed me. It's a
Oh,
little,
it's one of those nice little voting cards. Yeah.
yeah. It's a sticker actually,
Uh-huh.
I believe.
Yes, it's a sticker.
Yeah, it comes right off, and it's one of those little. This is for young voters especially.
Mhm.
One of the little barcode scans. We're gonna get more
QR
of these
code. It's called a QR code, Jason.
QR codes. See, well, you're right. It's not a barcode. It's a newer barcode called a QR code. QR. And you can check your voter status in this and register to vote very easily through this thing. And so this is very important to hand out to people. Another thing is passive support isn't going to cut it. I guess what it comes down to, you have to realize that. I guess what I'm getting at is governments will continue to oppress further and further. They won't just stop by nature. First, they take away we already have these crazy gun laws here in Connecticut. Washington D.C. You know what the gun laws in Washington D.C. are? You can't
I
even own it.
actually
You can't.
don't. I know they're
You
restricted.
you just can't own a gun in Washington D.C. Unless you're Eagle Scout.
Okay.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Connecticut's almost as bad. I mean, so the point is
And Connecticut's good compared to
the
Massachusetts.
erosion of your rights is incrementalism. Like, so the people that want to erode our rights in America, the tyrants that do in our government that are working on the deep state, as you will put it, over the years, Trump has put a stop to it pretty much, a lot of it. But the bottom line is, if you let it go unchecked, well, let's use the state of Connecticut as an example because there's nothing checking that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already have political prisoners here. If people understood that, what that means in Europe right now, I saw a video, interesting video, where that cop came to the guy's door at 2 o'clock in the morning over a tweet.
Was
The
that
guy came.
Germany or was that Great Britain?
It was Europe. I don't know where.
Because
I was kind of half watching it, but
it happens all over the place
it
now.
happens all over Europe. Wow, all over Europe right now. We're not happening to have here because we have the First Amendment, thank goodness. But if we here's my point though.
It's not like people weren't getting swatted
This guy
before.
was ready to take this
What?
guy to jail in a car, take him out in a car out of his home at 2 o'clock in the morning
Hmm.
over a tweet.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, my point is we're not doing that here yet. But if we don't go to RTC meetings and participate, at the very minimum, register to vote and vote Republican. And
Yep.
if you don't start flooding RTC meetings and taking over, it starts at the local level. We have a lot of very corrupt town councils. By the way, not just RTCs and DCCs. Go to your town council meetings. Most town council meetings have a section for public to show up.
Yep, they do.
Show up and make your voices heard. For God's sake, if we're teaching kids porn in schools, we're gonna get to the transgender thing in a minute. The point is, if you don't take active participation, they won't just stop where they are now. Next thing you know, you start tweeting on X that you're upset about something. You get it out there, and cops are gonna show up at your door, or they'll ban guns completely, or they'll just continue to suppress and suppress. There are many Democrats right now that want tenement housing. They want to get rid of your property rights. They want to devalue your home.
Yep.
Just all they got to do is pass a little law and say your home is no longer worth anything, and now you got to come to this office and whatever and register with your housing, and we're going to relocate you. So if you're okay with that kind of oppression, hey, stay home, because that was the kind of stuff we're going to have here if we let Biden's people come back in.
Yeah. And they are just waiting.
They're waiting. They'll pack the court. They're going to pack the court. See, Trump has, as much as the great things that Trump has done, when you do something good, you trigger the bad. So
Oh,
by Trump doing what he's done to blow up their plans of evil, they are now plotting. They now know, oh my God, if we just get rid of Trump and bring ourselves back in, we got to really clamp it down this time.
mhm.
Look at what's so funny. People call Trump Hitler. It's these guys that are doing the fascist stuff, not us. Eventually, I'm sorry to say this, but down the road, it eventually leads to extermination, concentration camps, and killing the undesirables.
Yeah.
The MAGA people.
Yeah.
They'll come to your house and take you out and take
Well,
you right out. I'm
well,
talking about this
Biden,
is worst case scenario stuff. I'm not trying to scare people. What I'm trying to say is governments, big governments oppress naturally.
yes.
That's because think about it. It makes sense. If you want to be a politician, that's why I'm saying I don't want to be a politician. If you want to be a politician and you're one of those people that's a career politician, you're working your way up the ladder trying to be a politician. Most, not all, but most of those people are power hungry people, and they want to tell you how to run your life
Hmm.
because they think they know better than you.
Yep.
They think a lot of them think they're doing the right thing, but all they're doing is contributing to a cycle of oppression that will. And the part about that I want people to be scared about actually is they will continue to oppress and oppress and oppress right down to murder. If we don't stop it now, right now we're not anywhere near that. Right now
But
we still have a beautiful free country, but
I would like to talk about what's happening in Canada
let's do that.
because, and we could probably seek into some of the medical stuff you wanted to talk about from there. Because one of the things that's happening in Canada is that they passed a, a, a law where you can, you know, execute yourself, basically.
Oh, like a Dr. Kevorkian thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that comes up in our legislature, and it's
What does
going
that mean though?
up.
Through medical procedure, or you could just
Yeah, no, it's
okay,
it's
okay,
medical
okay.
procedure.
Just
They
making sure
inject you
things are
with,
radical these
and
days.
the drugs that they use to inject you with, they're horrible because you're conscious, but you basically are drowning while you're conscious. It's torture. This
Wow.
is torture. I'm going to recommend a podcast called The Kelsey Sharon Perspective, and she talks about this a lot. She was in the military. She had a brain injury, and she had to she had to deal with a lot of stuff. But she talks about it's called MAID. And when I interviewed Leslie Wolfgang from the Family Institute, we talked about this a fair bit. Um, but it's what's happening is that doctors are suggesting this to people. They are offering it, and they passed 20,000 people that basically they put to sleep last year.
Wow. Are
And now
these
they're
people that are
recommending,
terminally ill? Are they all supposed to be terminally ill, or is it like,
well, now they're recommending it to people with mental health issues.
oh no,
Yeah.
oh no,
Yeah. So
that's really, really
this is
bad.
where we can go.
So now, if you want to commit suicide and you're on the ledge, basically, hey, let's help you jump the ledge.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you're talking about.
I mean, you're talking about people, it's like they don't need to come in and shoot you. All they have to do is say, "Oh, you have a mental health problem. You really should," and put enough pressure on you until you check yourself out. And this has happened where someone was like, "No, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. No, I'm ready to still be here. No, I," and they push on you and push on you and push on you until you give in.
Well, it's funny how bad people can make so much noise, and do so much. How do they get into our systems like this and do these things?
It,
How is
honestly,
this allowed?
Because some of
Because
it,
people aren't
because
doing this.
humans
People,
have different characteristics in our personalities, born with them, having it, laid into us. We have our beliefs laid into us to some degree, but we also have stuff that is genetic. It's a mix. It goes back and forth, but we all have these tendencies. And for example, I was talking about liberty oppression earlier. It's like some people are like, you are not going to tell me what to do. I'm one of those people.
right?
You're
I'm one of
probably
those
one of those
people too.
people too. Yeah, those of
Absolutely.
us who are
15%,
self-employed.
only 15% of us are like that.
Yeah, and
The
it's
rest of them will pretty much do what they're told, unless it's ridiculous. They'll pretty much do what they're told.
But there's also a percentage of people who want to be the oppressors. They want to tell people what to do. I mean, look at Bill
Another
Gates.
10%, they're called sociopaths.
Yeah. Well, you can call them whatever, but they're
That's what they
people who
are.
have the desire to control other people. It's
Right.
born
Not
for,
just help them along, but control them.
yeah, control
And then
them.
what they do,
And you know what? They actually believe. These are people who believe that they are right about this.
I know.
They believe in their, like, it's like Hitler. I just wanted to make the world a better
Or
place.
like Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller once said, "Hey, look, it's about my family. Basically, the hell with everybody else. I'm going to
Well, there's
control."
that. There's that piece
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
I was, I want, and that, so um, there's that 10% is called, that's about 10%,
Mhm.
and then we have 15%. So even in that thing, we outnumber them. Then there's the 75% in the middle. That 10% of the sociopaths is able to influence
Mhm.
another 10 to 30% of the people
And you know
with
why
that
that is?
same
Because
BS.
those of us who are liberty minded don't want to pay attention to that. We don't want to pay attention. We want to go about our business. We just want to go. I was in the Libertarian Party for 10 years. And the big thing with the libertarians is just leave me alone. Their mascot is the porcupine. Just leave me alone. I'm sorry, my fellow libertarians. I hate to tell you this, they ain't gonna leave you alone. So get out there, and I'm as much as you hate it, join the Republican Party because the Democrat Party is not really doing
It's not the
anything.
Democratic Party anymore,
You know,
like they were.
and I get it.
Well,
It's
look,
like I said, I was
I got to be
libertarian.
honest. The Democratic Party has been doing evil, terrible things. We act like Connecticut has the Democratic Party has been taken over by a far left influence. It's really bad.
Oh yeah,
However, to act like this is unprecedented is really not true. The
yeah,
Democrats are responsible for the Ku Klux Klan, for all the things that went back, all the lynchings that went on. They've done the terrible, terrible things in many, many different ways that I could spend 3 hours talking about. So it's not new.
right.
They're a party of chaos.
Mhm.
They're a party of discrimination, and they point the finger at the other our side and accuse us of the same thing. It's mass projection. It's like it's a mass psychology episode going on, and the battle will always happen because we're never going to change as a
Yeah, it's
species.
yeah, it's
You know,
not
we're not going to end this thing,
or
but
be
we do have to put out the fires where they are. And Connecticut is on fire right now with left wing influence, far left wing influence, not
yeah.
just left wing, far left wing. It's not red. Like you used to have a left and a right wing when it was all red, white, and blue.
Mm.
Not anymore. Look what's going on with the governor of Minnesota. Literally, like promoting the Somali nation building and Somalia. Really? I mean,
Yeah,
so this gets me gets to transgender. I want to talk about transgender for a minute
please.
because this kind of relates to this the medical thing you're talking about.
Right.
Although mass uh, genocide in Canada being disguised as, physician's assistants or something is a much
Care,
more dire topic
care.
than what I'm about to say, honestly. But this talks about the need, and I'm going to talk about the medical side of it first. I've said this before. Doctors in America are trained in like schools like Harvard Medical School, these same schools that we take that are suppressing Jewish people, that we're finally getting that straightened out, but we want to keep giving money to the medical schools, right? We don't want to take the money away from them. But these medical schools don't teach doctors anything except for drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery, chemotherapy, drugs and surgery. That's all where the money is.
Yeah,
That's not where your health comes from.
right.
Those
Absolutely.
are patchwork things to mask symptoms most of the time.
Mhm.
It's
And
a joke. I'm not
a
a
lot
doctor,
of
but I'm smart enough to know it's a joke. And so now take that picture
Mhm.
because that's what it is, and it's disgusting, honestly. Take that. Now, thank God Americans are waking up and there's more and more holistic things going on. I actually have a cooperative health doctor now, too, who's like 80% holistic, and then he dives into the Western medicine. Drugs and surgery should be last resorts,
Hmm.
not you don't jump right to those things. Now, let's take transgenderism. Transgenderism is our people growing up as a child, maybe feeling like a man if they're a woman or a woman if they're a man. I think that's a natural thing that occurs in a lot of some, not a lot, but a small percentage of kids that, I think that hormones are dictate how you feel, whether you feel like a man or a woman. That's how you, right? It's sexual hormones that come out. And so, and then it's all along the scale. So you're going to have men that are born with all a lot of testosterone, are all men. Then you're going to have women that are all women. And then there's going to be those people in between, which I think is a smaller group of people that might feel one way or the other. And then as the child, they might feel confused, but they're going to outgrow it though. And that's why you don't. So these same idiots that do drugs and surgery, drugs and
Percentage
surgery, drugs
wise,
and
yeah.
surgery are doing the same thing with children. Oh, well, a psychiatrist is talking to a 13 or 14 or 15-year-old child. And they, well, sometimes I feel like, doesn't mean they're attracted. Take a man, I take a young boy, right? Doesn't mean there are boys that are, I've know of them that are, curious or whatever, or they're bi-curious or whatever. And it's a stage that they come out of. And by the time they're 20, 21 years old, they're pretty much men. It's fine because their hormones are a little more of, their body is set up so there's a little more estrogen coming out or whatever. So they're a little more inclined to that. So that's a natural occurrence. But these occurrences are not, you're supposed to be one or the other. There's two genders.
Well, yeah, you are
But
supposed to.
but there's a small percentage that's always been, it's like 1% though, of the people that have that little, they're in between a
Less,
little bit there.
it's less than 1%.
It's a very small number of people,
Yeah,
right?
it's less than 1%. You have to go over here, buddy. I gotta move
But
my.
it's not abnormal for especially females, I think, to like a female. Let's just put it: a female is more likely in college to have a few drinks and feel around with another female. It doesn't mean that they're gay.
Well,
Whereas if a man does that,
no.
that is like whoa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I've
It's
never
very
felt the desire to do that, and I've been at plenty of parties, and I've had
different.
back in my days and plenty of drink. I've never once said, "Oh, I'm curious about this guy." Like, no way, But there are guys I know that do get like that. Um,
I read so
but
I'm
it's rare, like you said.
yeah,
So the
it is.
point is, what I guess my point is,
What's the
they're
point?
taking that drugs and surgery mentality, and they're now applying it to our children, and they're saying, if now a psychiatrist talks to a boy who says that, and let them, if I
Not
have
even
no problem with it,
psychiatrists though.
there is people that are gay, and that's fine, that's natural, but it's always a small percentage of people. What they're doing is in an effort, they're manipulating that,
Right.
and they're using it to literally promote transgenderism, to talk kids that might ask a question into, and sixth grade children are being now taught in some schools, thank God not all of them yet, in some schools here in Connecticut, that if you feel like you may be a girl or you may be a boy, but if you feel the other way, that's okay. They're actually trying to get kids to think like that. And when you do that with a formative child, they're going to start thinking like that because formative children are the most impressionable human beings in the world. And when you're not supposed to promote transgenderism and homosexuality to formative children. That's unbelievable. That's abhorrent. And the fact that it's going on. And what's happening is now what you said was rare, 1% less than you're arguing less. You're arguing less than 1%, right?
Mhm.
Maybe 1%. Some people think 2, 3%. Now, kids in their formative in their teenage years are saying they think they might be transgender at 7%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's alarming. If that trend continues, a local grocery store that I frequent, I'm not going to say which one, has like, there's probably 8 or 9 teenage young employees there.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them now that are kind of like,
Hmm.
look like they're cross dressing a little bit.
Yeah.
This is alarming. And what this does, again, the battles between the state and the family. This is an evil way of attacking the family. The more kids that don't know who they are, what gender they are, you don't even know what gender you are. Hell, you're not going to have a hard time forming a family, a real
Correct.
coherent family. They're trying to destroy our families at the root of it.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
a systematic attempt at doing that, and they're taking transgenderism, which is again a
Children.
very rare thing, and they're equating it to the civil rights movement to get people to get on board with it.
And it's not, and it doesn't even,
Nothing to
it's
do with the civil rights movement. Nothing to be
it
in
has
black or
nothing to
white
do.
whatsoever.
So,
So this is and then they're taking the drugs and surgery mentality to get kids to literally have themselves manipulated their genitalia. Some of their
yeah,
most sacred parts.
they're cutting
Oh,
young women's breasts off. They're cutting boys' penises off.
boys under 18,
This is
minors.
mutilation. It's mutilation.
This is bad. This is like right out. Now listen, I'll take this thing off again. Go to your RTC meetings and stop. But we can put a stop to this. Most people don't want this. I know that
Yeah.
nobody wants this.
Hmm.
There are now. Listen, there are a lot.
There's
There's
a
actually a pretty
percentage
large.
there's a percentage of
Yeah,
parents who
there's a
have
large number
supported
of
this,
parents. I'm learning
and they
now.
are not going to change their minds. They're not going to change their minds because once you go all in on this psychologically, since we're
You
talking
don't
about
want to say you're wrong. Yeah,
if you look at the this decision that you made, which is a horrible, horrible decision, and we can see that from the outside, you make this horrible decision, and how do you go back on that?
a lot of them are doing it on the basis of their compare. Again, they're buying into the mantra that it's a civil rights uh, thing, and
Yeah.
that's where and that's what I think the
Or
basis of their
they
thinking.
trust their doctor. For example, my cousin, this is my cousin in Pennsylvania. He has, weirdly enough, he was teaching at my high school, even though we grew up like 100 miles away from each other. He ended up getting a job teaching at my high school, my old high school. And his younger son has decided that he wants to be a girl.
I know everybody. I know so
I
many people now that have this going on.
And he's close to 18. So this is, my cousin isn't going to have a choice in the matter, but I emailed him because I'm good friends with his mother, because he's my first cousin once removed. And I'm good friends with his mother. And so I sent him an email and I said, look, this is not a good thing. And I'm sorry to be intrusive, but I feel like I have to say something because I wouldn't feel good if I didn't at least try. The
Mhm.
answer he gave me was, we trust our doctors.
You got a lot of bad people in politics and in media and in college professors and also in doctors' offices
Yeah.
everywhere.
I
These
will
people.
say that this has come through the school system because there is a great deal of literature that teachers learn when they're in teaching school that pushes them in this direction. And it's like there's a lot of
But
stuff.
who's writing these books? Who are the people behind these? Is it Board of
Um,
Education's? It's got to be Board of Education,
it
right?
is it's Board of Education stuff.
So
The books themselves, the instruction, literally, this goes into philosophy because these books are based on philosophers like Foucault. And this isn't something that you're going to hear in the average conversation. But
yep.
this is like philosophy starts to influence educational schools. And this is how the intellectuals change the culture.
The stupid, you mean?
Is they get into the schools and they start teaching this
Yeah,
stuff.
they're calling them intellectuals. They're stupids. They're not intellect.
They're-
Well,
these are the
actually,
people,
what they
listen,
are,
listen,
they're little Lex Luthors, is what they are.
there are
Little
people who
mastermind
think that
thugs.
they know something and they want to control what's going on. And instead of controlling themselves, they want to control you.
The worst part about it is they don't. They themselves know this shit's bullshit.
Some of them do, some
The,
of them
the
don't.
ones at the top do. The ones that are behind this, the very masterminds that are behind this,
Right.
they know it's bullshit. They're using it to
Those
manipulate.
are the psychopaths.
That's why Sigmund Freud really screwed things up, man. If he hadn't done it, somebody would have. But Sigmund Freud gets everybody hopefully knows who Sigmund Freud is, but if you don't, he's the guy that basically the psychological guy from the late 1800s that is the pioneer of psychology, right? He developed the ego. Everybody knows who Sigmund Freud is. This guy, he's the AI guy of that time. He opened up the mind. Before that, people looked at the mind through how you believed in God or they didn't look at the people thought most people thought your thoughts came from your heart actually, not your mind, not even your brain. Your brain was just blood pumping, part of the gig or whatever. So Sigmund Freud is the one that cracked the mind and opened up the psychology that allowed good people to do a lot of good things for people, also a lot of bad people to do a lot of bad things and manipulate people psychologically. and it's still being used. This kind of stuff is still being used today to get idiots to believe that men are women and women are men if they say they are. That's
I'm
bull.
gonna make a distinction here because so we have so there's the kids that are confused, which is what you've been talking about.
Yeah,
That is unconscionable
you
that
have to wait until you're an adult to make
it's
decisions.
unconscionable that anyone would try and convince a child that they are a sex that they are not. That is unconscionable. And I'm right up there with
It's
I know what
evil.
you know what happened at Nuremberg.
Yeah, it's evil.
They,
And it's
they
just
they hung doctors because they were not giving their patients informed consent.
right,
The patients couldn't give informed consent. They hung those guys.
right.
And I'm like, this is
That-
what
They're doing the same thing right here.
they're doing the same thing here.
Yes,
This is
they are.
not informed consent, including it's like and in Connecticut, kids can say, "Oh, I just want," and if your parents don't agree with you, you can just leave because
Yep.
that's a legal thing in
They've
Connecticut.
illegally emancipated kids from their parents' influence.
Yes, and they're willing to bust people in to do these
This
things.
is why we
I don't
need
know where
lots of
this
people to start showing up at RTC meetings and taking the leadership over because it's a long process to control town councils. You know what the hell with the RTC? Go to the town council too. Go to both of these. Look, we need a lot of people. If you have children and if you've worked all day, this is another part I missed. I talked about this before. I work full time. If you work full time and you got a lot of responsibilities, I don't want to hear it. I don't hear the damn excuse anymore because I can talk the talk and I'm walking the walk.
right.
I work full time, 45 hours a week on the average, sometimes more, never less than 40.
Mhm.
And then I'm older too. I don't have the energy I did when I was 25. I still have a ton of energy, but I'm not when I was 25. And I do everything. I don't get paid for any of this. I do it all volunteer. I have kids that have needs too. They're all adults now, luckily, so I have that. But I have to tend to their needs too when they need them because I'm there for them. I have my mother's getting older. I have other responsibilities besides just work too in my regular personal life. And so whatever everything I do is beyond that because they're first and I'm doing it for them. So do it for them. Do it for your family. Don't look at it as, oh, I'm taking time away from my family. Well, back in the days in the old West, in order to set up that land for your family, you have to go out and fight in the old cowpoke once in a while and leave the family behind to save for the sake of the family. So go out, start going. Go to your RTC meetings. Go to your town councils. Look for candidates. Get together. I know a lot of you sit around the dinner table, sit at the local pubs, and sit at the restaurants and talk about this stuff, just like we do,
Mhm.
just like we're doing here on this podcast. You're all doing it in your houses. It's time to take action because if you don't, again, they will continue to erode your rights away. Now, maybe, yeah, you're right, Selena. A lot of people can tolerate a certain amount of oppression in order to have kind of security and just be able to be left alone. But they won't leave you alone,
No, they're not.
and they won't leave you alone ever. And they'll continue as long as they keep getting away with it. Continue to do it. We're gonna start. This is why we need to get to know Connecticut a lot better. That's why we're gonna go town by town. Really start working on getting out there in the field, doing more podcasts out in the field beyond just this one and making sure people understand what's at stake. Go to your town hall, hold people accountable, make sure the voting is fair. Don't worry about that part. We're doing that. But you should go, and when you're at your RTC meetings, when you're there, demand to know that the voting is going to be fair and demand that your town does not use computers. This
Yes,
is going to be a tough sell, Selena, in the age of computers.
it is. They
But I can't tell you how
the
easy it is
machines
to rig an election with
not
computers.
the machines are not that we have no way of knowing what is going on inside the machines.
Right.
All you can tell if you are sitting at the polls, which is what I did at this last election. I went and sat at the polls and volunteered for that. And the only thing you can tell from those voting machines, we are not counting them. The thing gets fed into the machine, and you know how many pieces of paper were fed into that machine. That's all you can freaking know about. We can't read the code that says how they're reading the votes.
Mhm.
These things, they say, oh, they're not connected to the internet. You take a flash drive. It's supposed to be a clean flash drive, whatever that means. But who
Right.
cares if it's clean or not? Because the first thing you do is you plug it into a computer on a website that tells the flash drive, that programs the flash drive to tell the machine what's going on.
That stuff can be handled remotely. I mean, it's
Yeah,
absolutely
we can't read the code. If we can't read the code, why should we trust this? And this should be a bipartisan issue. One
should be.
person, one vote. There's plenty of proof
They don't
that
play by the rules, though. That's the problem. That's the problem
in
with it.
Connecticut we have phantom voters, we have dead voters, and this isn't even, say you've got somebody who's from, who's moved away, who's still voting. We have multiple people voting from the same address.
Mhm.
I mean, there's all these different ways that they can mess with the voter rolls, with the
Mhm.
algorithms that they're using.
Mhm.
We've all heard about, boxes of ballots being delivered here and there, everywhere. That's everywhere around the country.
Yeah.
So there's tons of different ways to cheat. The machines are just one, but we could do something about that.
And remember, like you said many times, the towns, each individual town in Connecticut is not required to use the machines. They
They
can
are
go back
not.
to the old poll like we had, and they still have those machines
We
out
can
there.
hand count them. They can be hand counted because you know what?
Normally, I'm in favor.
Yeah,
Normally, I'm in favor of new technology, but not in this case. Not when it comes to elections.
not when it comes to elections.
Not when
And
it comes to
you have a group of people who are hand counting, who are all checking each other's work. That's a much greater incentive for honesty.
Yep.
So,
So, are we there?
um,
You got something else on your mind?
um, yeah, you know what? We could be there. I think we could be there. So, all right. So, have a wonderful night, everybody, and God bless America and God bless Connecticut. And we'll see you on the flip side. Have a great weekend.
And everybody.